In her novel Frankenstein, Mary Shelley so cleverly avoided telling the reader directly how Victor might have made his monster come to life. This was done by explaining to the reader that that secret will not be revealed, for it will also ruin your life as it had ruined Victor's life. How might someone actually create a real living modified being? Well, there are many scientific approaches and procedures that can be taken to create something of your own personal modifications and preferences. However, there are many different controversies and questions and issues raised with these procedures, and it has created a huge kind of topic of controversy around the world. And then it goes into the topic of beauty and how beauty is perceived in our world and how people perceive beauty and how much of an importance beauty has on our society. Mary Shelley, in her novel Frankenstein, also touches on beauty and how much beauty affects people and how much people value beauty and how much we are envious of beauty in our lives. Right, basically there are two methods of altering human genetics. First one is called in vitro fertilization, and the second, human cloning.
First is the process of in vitro fertilization. The purpose of this is to enable someone to choose specific characteristics to insert into a nucleus or to even take out of the nucleus. The scientist does this by inserting an extremely small needle into the membrane of the nucleus, and then that needle extracts the chosen gene that is wished to be removed. Or they can pre-insert a gene into that needle and then stick that into the membrane. In turn, this enables you to have a human being with characteristics of your choosing.
The second method of human genetic modification is cloning. Cloning is done by taking the nucleus out of a female unfertilized egg and inserting that nucleus into like a scientific modified egg. That egg is then placed into a petri dish where it is allowed to grow in a culture. How do you get a baby from a culture? You insert the nucleus and the egg into the womb of a surrogate mother who then gives birth to a clone of the original.
So, how does this relate to Frankenstein? Remember how we told you that through in vitro fertilization, we are able to create our very own modified human being from manipulating genes by inserting specific characteristics into the zygote? Through this, we are able to choose gender, hair color, eye color, and so on. And in Victor's case, I guess you would have this huge 8-foot-tall male with big pearlies and black hair. He has genetically modified this human being's characteristics to his choosing.
So with in vitro fertilization comes the ability for a scientist or a parent to scan the zygote for certain diseases or defects in the baby. So this started out as parents, wanting to scan these zygotes for possible defects that would affect the lives of their children. So parents would scan these zygotes for things like Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis, things that you could pick up in the chromosomes of like a scan of a zygote, the fluid in a zygote. So, this started out as, being very useful because parents wanted the best for their kids. But with the discoveries of science and where science has led us to, it has escalated to the point where we can now, scientists and parents can now insert genes and choose what their baby will look like. So parents have the option to, we can say, oh, Do we want our kid with blue eyes or brown eyes, green eyes? We can have our kid tall, fat, skinny, short, fair, dark, So this has created a lot of controversy around the world because is it right to be able to choose what a human being looks like? Is this wrong because we're not letting nature take its path? Should we let science go where, science leads us? So in many ways, in vitro fertilization and the whole genetic modification thing has become a very controversial topic in that, what's moral, what's not moral. And then, if we had the whole world, if it gets to a point where the whole world is scanning, in vitro fertilization and picking humans, like, would the whole world just look like the same thing? Would we all have perfect human beings that would just be beautiful, no defects, no Down syndrome? Nature would not be able to take its toll. So, there's a lot of moral issues, and there are a lot of there's a lot of controversy around the idea of being able to mess with a human being and not let nature do what nature has intended. So imagine a world where we were all clones of each other. How would we feel? How would an individual feel if they were surrounded by a bunch of people who looked just like them because their parents chose what they would look like? Where would individuality be in our world? Would there be a place for uniqueness? Would a person feel like they were just like everyone else? So there's a lot of moral question about that and kind of the scary direction that our world might go to if there was no room for uniqueness or variation, and like what would beauty be? So again, it's a very controversial topic in very many countries with a lot of different kind of people and types of people, and there are lots of different views, religious views on in vitro fertilization and following scientific paths.
The morality of genetic modification relates strongly to Frankenstein's creature. The question would be, was this fair to the creature who was put on Earth without a say? It's not like he had the choice of what he looked like, or if he even wanted to exist in the first place. He's constantly being ridiculed and is greatly ashamed of his appearance. With that, he is always comparing himself to other human beings and what they have and what he doesn't. Whether that would include having good looks, or love because they aren't so hideous that someone would run away from them. Due to this, he is without companionship or the acceptance of others. And, in reality, it's Victor's fault that this creature will live an ashamed and lonely life. So I guess that answers my original question. And emotionally, the creature's creation went against human ethicality. In this novel, we get a very close look at human behavior, and we are able to analyze it further. Humans are so easily prejudiced against the appearance of others without even getting to know them. It is so easy for someone to be so dismissive towards another because we are constantly analyzing the exterior shell of someone, and we dismiss anything that doesn't fit into our lives comfortably. It is in human nature to accept the things that we see fit into our lives and reject the things that do not. So, why so sad, big guy? In the creature's reality, people throughout the novel are doing exactly that. This creature does not fit comfortably into their lives, and they immediately associate him with something negative or as a threat, even though, in reality, he has a bigger heart than most humans will ever have. The only thing that this creature needs is a companion to give him the acceptance that he desires and really deserves. He is in complete isolation, with nobody except the comfort of a fire. Is it too hard to ask for a real friend?